remember my broker saying, oh, you can't do that because so-and-so owns that market. And I'm like, how do they own it? Did they buy it? Like, do they own the whole neighborhood, every home in the neighborhood? No, they don't. So then I can break in there just the same way they broke in there. I don't care that they've been there for the last 20 years. Their brand is so solid, then they have nothing to worry about, right? Then I'm not going to make a dent in their business, but I'm not going to take in consideration somebody else who has 20 years of experience, because it's probably adequate and it's probably time for a new face in there, right? So in my opinion, you can go for whatever you want to go for, whatever you want to specialize in. Yeah, be the best at it, but go for it.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. My special guest was named the social media queen of real estate by Success and Metropolitan magazines. She loves nothing more than helping other like-minded entrepreneurs achieve their goals. She has a podcast, TV, and radio show called Gogo Preneur. She has built an international real estate team called Team Gogo. The team is standing strong with 1,500 plus agents who did 2.1 billion in sales in 2023. Let's welcome the wonderful, talented influencer, leader, and educator who hails from Transylvania, Romania. Her self-title is serial entrepreneur, adorable badass, Miss Gogo Bethke, to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm laughing here because my team asked me, like, what do you want your title to be when they were filling out your application link, right? And I was like, I don't know, adorable badass.
I did see that it was on somewhere else too. I saw it somewhere else when I was scrolling through it. So well, she must use that.
Put it in there. I love it.
Well, welcome to the show, and I congratulate you. I saw on LinkedIn, EXP, the EXPCon 2024. You are coming back, because I think you were a speaker in 23. You're coming back this year for a speaker in Miami.
Yes, and I'm so excited. I guess I get to talk about agent attraction this time, so I'm super excited.
Excellent. I always start off the show to get a little background, assuming that there's people out there that don't know who you are. If you want to just sum it up a little bit, where you came from. I know you part of your story is coming to the States. You basically had a few dollars in your pocket, and what brought you right up to getting into real estate?
Oh my gosh, I was just talking about it today that in Hungarian, we don't even have the word for realtor. Or I should say we didn't have the word for realtor when I moved away back in 2003. So culturally, at home, people live in the same home generation after generation after generation, right? So it's really not a thing of like buying homes and selling homes. People usually just live in it forever and then they give it to their children. So it's not that I said, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be a realtor. Like, never even crossed my mind. It was an accident. I did all kinds of jobs in the US. So let me back it up for a second. So I was born and raised in Transylvania, Romania. I'm Hungarian by nationality, but I also speak Romanian because that's the country's language. Mm-hmm. I went to college in Hungary. So I went to schools back at home in Transylvania, Romania. Then I went to college in Hungary. In my third year of college, I was supposed to pass an English exam. I didn't speak English at all. I thought the easiest way to learn the language is to live with the people who speak it. So I decided I'm coming to America. I came as an au pair, or a live-in nanny. Oh. And I met my husband barely 2 months, I think, after I got to the US. We got married 4 months after that. So we were like, bam, bam, boom, done.
Wow.
Yeah. And we have been married ever since. So you know when you know, right? So 21 years happily married. So we have 2 boys. And that was in 2003 when I met him, right? Not until 2011 then I got licensed in real estate. So a lot of time went by and I did all kinds of random jobs. I mean, I have a food safety auditor certification license. I worked in the plastics department at NSF International. I worked as a restaurant, like not a bartender, like a server in a restaurant. I worked in a jewelry store, like you name it, I've done it, right? I worked in a barcoding company. I was a secretary in a barcoding company. Like I just have like a random lineup of jobs that I'm like, oh, what don't I want to be when I grow up? So I did like the process of elimination of what I don't want to be.
I mean, obviously you're learning the language during this time because you said 2003, obviously I imagine that was a little bit of a challenge for you in some of these jobs.
Oh, absolutely. So I thought I spoke somewhat of an English when I came to the US. So I remember this guy in the New York airport, this tall black man was talking to me, and I said, English, please. And he said, I'm speaking it. And I was like, oh, I'm like, if you're speaking English, then I am not, then we are so far apart. So,
Mhm.
first of all, we learn British English. So, we learn proper English, right? And then I moved to the US. And then instead of how do you do, people ask you, hey, how are you?
Mhm.
And I was like, do they really want to know how I'm like, is this like an actual question or is this like a pretend question, right? So,
Rhetorical
there's
question, right?
exactly. So
Yeah.
there's cultural differences, there
Mhm.
is language differences, and then there's this thing called slang.
Yes.
And that's a whole other can of worms. So even to the day, there are certain things, and I ask my husband, I'm like, what does that mean? And then he repeats it. And I'm like, okay, I am not deaf. I heard you. I don't know what it means. So if you repeat the same thing, I still don't know what it means, right? Like you need to explain it. So if you think about slang, it's usually a line from a movie. And you want to hear the funniest story? So I'm watching Top Gun, and this guy says, talk to me, Goose. And I was like, oh my gosh, Goose is his name. And Talk to Me Goose is a line from a movie. And I was like, this whole time, 21 years in this country, I did not know Talk to Me Goose is a line from Top Gun. I thought people would say that when you're like, hey, okay, let's talk about what do you want to talk about? Talk to me, Goose, right? I had no idea. I had
That's funny.
no idea that that's a line from Top Gun.
Well, it's slang and also sarcasm is hard to catch. Is that correct when you don't
Oh
know the language?
gosh. Oh, or just okay, so let's talk about another funny story. So at this time I'm a babysitter, right? And the phone rings and I answer it and they want to leave a message for the husband. And I said, sure, I'll take the message, right? So I'm writing down the note and the person says on the other end that I need to tell Mr. Homeowner that his makeup class is Tuesday at 6:30. So I get off the call. I call my husband and I'm like, you will never believe this. I don't remember what his name was. Let's say Robert. I'm like, Robert is a transvestite. And my husband goes, what? Why? At this point, I'm upstairs in their closet looking for large size shoes. Like, I'm like, how did I miss that? Right. So my husband is like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, someone just called and said Robert has a makeup class Tuesday at 6:30. And my husband goes, honey,
That's
he goes,
funny.
honey, he probably takes golf or something and he missed the class and he needs to make it up. Well, when you're from another country, makeup
Yeah.
is makeup. Makeup is what I put on my face. It's not the class, like, it's not a makeup class for the class that you missed, right?
Hmm.
So, oh my gosh, sarcasm, jokes, words that you use in multiple ways, like makeup, right? Can be super duper misunderstood when you're from another country. Like, I
Yeah.
thought the guy had a makeup.
Because you're really focusing on each word, that you're writing, and it's more direct meaning of it. Yeah, I can see that.
Or like things like you guys say, like when you talk someone off the ledge. I'm imagining someone standing on the bridge. Which side?
Right.
Can we be a little bit more specific? Like, are we talking them back onto the bridge or to the deep end? Like, which side of the bridge are we talking? What? Like, let's just be a little more specific for the foreigner over here. These are my foreigner stories for
You
the
would.
day.
I could just see you guys go to a comedy club. It's got to be great.
We should do that. Oh my gosh, we should do these little stories because I was telling him, I said every relationship goes through like hardships, right? Like the
Mhm.
7 year itch and all of that stuff. But imagine we have extra because we have the cultural differences, we have
Yeah.
the language barrier, right? So like the foods, the music, and all that, plus the language. So we had a little extra work as a couple.
Circling back to real estate, when do you get a fancy for real estate? And then now, were you always with EXP, or did you actually go to a different brokerage before?
So I started with real estate once. So I'm licensed in Michigan, and now we live down in Tampa, just to
Mhm.
be clear for the audience. And I stayed with real estate one for 7.5 years. I switched to Keller Williams for a hot minute. I did it for profit share, and then I learned through Keller Williams and profit share that I rather have revenue share. So then I switched to EXP in 2018, the end of 2018. So that's like my history, my real estate career.
So you had a longer term vision. That's one thing I talk a lot on the show. I think a lot of agents get in, and I'm sure you've experienced this. A lot of agents, I don't think, see long term. They really are maybe have a 90-day vision, if that. They're not really looking at it as the, entrepreneurs all over your stuff, go-go-preneur, not looking for this like, hey, I'm getting in it long term, and I'm going to see myself 5 or 10 years down the road. Where am I going to be? I don't think a lot of agents, would you agree?
I mean, I can't talk for other agents, but I can tell you the way I see the world. I'd never done anything that I wasn't 100% into it.
Mm-hmm.
I am the sorest loser you will ever meet. So when I got into real estate and I realized that 80% of the realtors don't make it through the first year, I was like, what the,
Right.
how hard can it be? Right. And then I realized that they don't teach us anything. Like I remember the first time I had to go show a house and there was this box on the door. And I'm like, what the fudge is that? They don't teach you what a lockbox is, and they certainly don't tell you that there's going to be one on the door. Nobody ever taught me how to open one. And this is back in the day when we had like the to the right and then go a full circle to the left and then back to the right and then back to the left. It was like code
Yeah, like a
language to
padlock.
enter the
Yeah.
home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just feel like if you decide to do anything, then just go, excuse my French, balls to the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't ever half-ass anything. Don't get into real estate if you don't think you're going to be in it for a very, very long time. Don't take a job if you're already looking for another job. It's the way I kind of look at it, right? Like, if you're not excited about it, you're not interested about the subject, just don't do it. Go be a nurse. Go drive Formula One cars if that's what you want to do, right? Like, for me, it's number one, do you really truly want to be a realtor? And if you do, then why wouldn't you imagine yourself being the absolute best at it and making it a career?
You put out a lot of education. Obviously, I've been going through your YouTube. You have your other sites that we'll talk about a little bit later. A ton of education out there. But to go back to that moment in time where you're walking up to the door and you're like, how do I get in this house? And looking at that lockbox, there's a lot of agents obviously in that category. Looking back now, almost 11 years, I think, is, if I recall that correctly. What would you recommend to that agent? While they're taking their test, or they just finished, they just got their license. When they choose that first brokerage, could be very, very important to their overall career in real estate.
Absolutely. Brokerage is very important. It is and it isn't. Like I was successful at all of them. I will be successful wherever I go. It's just my personality. But
Mm-hmm.
the tools they provide make it easier, right? The infrastructure they provide make it easier so you don't have to labor or figure out your own way or come up with your own systems and processes because they already have it. You just have to plug in,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why I switched to EXP. In my opinion, it is the best place to be. But hey, everyone to their own, wherever you are, whatever you need, just find the best brokerage who provides that for the least amount of money. And hopefully you can't hear my bulldog snoring under my desk. Can you hear her? Literally snoring right now. I don't want to wake her up. But to go back, actually, it's been 13 years now. We are in 24 and
13.
I got
Okay.
licensed in 11.
My
Yeah,
bad.
so 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
To go back, very quickly, I realized when I got licensed, holy shit, excuse my French, how much I don't know. How much they don't really teach us, how they just really taught us the things on the surface and on the paper, but they don't actually teach you the nitty gritty, the down to the earth, like the day-to-day steps that you need to take. Where are the clients going to come from? What's the difference between a listing appointment and a buyer contract? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't teach you that. They're like, they don't teach you your hourly rate. Like with the seller, you're going to work 10 hours on average, and with the buyer, you're going to work 70 hours on average, but the commission is the same. So where should you spend your time? Right? So these type of things. So, and then also I wanted to figure out, I wanted to do it my way, right? And there's so many ways. You can be a cold caller, you can be a specialist in open houses, you can be a Zillow, whatever those agents are called. There's a million ways to slice the bread. So I wanted to figure out, okay, how do I want to do this? Because one of my favorite quotes is that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I already loved real estate, but I knew what I don't want to do after I researched everyone. So I'm going to take you one step back from there. I went into every top producer's office in the real estate one office and I said, okay, show me what you do. Can I shadow you for a day? I'll be a freaking wallflower. You won't even know I'm here. I'm just going to sit in the corner and just let me watch you in action. Right. And then I was like, whoa. Right. And then I figured out and I asked you, okay, what do you do? What makes you successful? What is your schedule like? What are your 3 habits? Like these kind of, like, I'm a huge studier. I'm the biggest
Right.
nerd you'll ever meet. And so after studying them, I realized that most of them were buying leads. I didn't have money, nor did I ever, I just didn't want to do that. I was like, I need to learn how to fish and put food on the table, right? Then some of them were like Zillow, whatever that's called, Zillow
Hmm.
agents. I remember at that time, and this is 14 years ago, the staff producing agent was paying $4,000 a month for Zillow. And I was like, I just want to make $4,000. I don't have $4,000 to spend on leads. I want to make $4,000. And then for whatever reason, the whole idea of scripts and role play and begging people for their business it's against my religion. Like, I will not do it. So after researching them, okay, so some were Zillow agents, some were buying leads, some were doing open houses, some were door knocking, some were farming an area, which was postcards and spending $800 a month on postcards
Hmm.
at the time. And I was like, okay, I got a list of things I am not willing to do or I can't afford to. Right. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, well, I have a list of what I'm not willing to do. Then what am I willing to do? Because I am a winner. I am not a loser. I didn't get my real estate license to be a part of the 80 percenters. I got my real estate license to be a part of the top 20% who does 80% of the business.
Right.
So then I said, okay, I have a list of what I'm not willing to do. Then what am I willing to do? And then that's how social media came about, because the question to me was, who's going to buy a house from me? I have no cousins. I have no college friends. I have no best friends. I have no high school. I have no one. I was
Right.
21 years old when I came to this country, and I didn't know a single human being when I came to this country. So I said, who's going to buy a house from me? I said, strangers. Where are the strangers? On Facebook. Everybody was on Facebook. Even their grandmother is on Facebook. So I said, okay, I just need to find them on Facebook. So I started Gogo's Real Estate and I hit it hard. And that was my full time job. Facebook was my full time job. I would go and show houses. I would do quick videos. I would ask questions. Hey guys, what is this? I saw this in a house. I don't know what it is. Oil tank from the 1800s. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like these type of things. And it's just turned into kind of like a, I don't want to say a go-go show, but it was entertaining. They loved it. It was exciting. It wasn't just like, these are the homes that hit the market, on a home in average stays in the market for 31 days. An average price per square foot is $142. Like, shoot me now. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to also realize through my research that people in average move every 7 years in the US, about 7 miles away. So I said, okay, so if it's every 7 years, then I need to entertain them for 6.5 years. So then when the 7 year mark comes around, they remember my name and they know where to find me.
You mentioned in several of your videos, and you just mentioned a few minutes ago, but I want you to drill down a little bit. You're big on the hourly rate, figuring out what are you making, where you're making it at. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So since everyone a realtor on here, do you want me to do the exercise so they know their hourly rate by the
Yeah.
time we are done? Okay, awesome.
Hmm.
So I want you to take the amount of money you made last year, all of it, every money that hit your account last year. I'm not saying after taxes, after expenses, none of that. Every money. So if it's 100,000, take a calculator and put in 100,000.
Hmm.
If it's 200,000, million, whatever that is, right? Take that number and put it into a calculator, and then divide it by 2080, 2080. The reason why that if you work a healthy 40 hours, which we know none of us do, but let's just say that if you did, because that's the idea, right, is to actually have a life outside of real estate. So that if you work a healthy 40 hours, then you work 2080 hours a year. So that number that is staring you in the face right now, that is your hourly rate. Every hour that you do what you did last year, you got paid that money. That's what you are worth in the hour. So if you want to take it one step forward, one step further as a realtor, I want you to tell me, out of that money that you made last year, what percentage was on the listing side and what percentage was on the buy side? Is it a 60-40, a 50-50? What is it? The reason why is because, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to spend way more time with the buyer than you're going to spend with the seller. So if you want to make more money, spend more time on the selling side, not as the buyer's agent, but as the listing agent. You're going to work less and you're going to make the same amount of money. Because a $300,000 house, if you charge a 3% commission, it's $9,000 on the listing side and it's $9,000 on the buy side, right?
Hmm.
Unless the difference is how much you're worth for it. On the listing side, you're going to work 8 to 10 hours for that $9,000. So your hourly rate is $1,000 ish, little north of that. On the buy side, you're going to work depending how good you are. And if we are in the high multi-bidding situations when you have to go and show them multiple houses and write multiple offers and negotiate multiple offers, and then it fell apart and then you went back and da da da. You could be anywhere from 30, 40 hours if you're really good at what you do to up to 80, 90 hours if you just kind of getting into it. So if you work 90 hours with that buyer for $9,000, right? So we're going to take 9,000 divided by 90. It's $100 an hour versus $1,000 an hour. What do you want to do? Where do you want to spend your time?
Right. Right. You train on this. You train on this a lot, and you speak on this subject a lot. I would imagine places you go. What are some of the reactions that you get from a lot of agents? Is this like all of a sudden a light bulb goes off? I imagine obviously 80% don't take it much out of the room that they heard it in, but there must be some that are taking it, and you've probably have changed some lives because now they're starting to go, oh yeah, hold on a second, I need to be doing that.
I mean, I just remember my own feeling. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, it's just math. I also remember when someone said, it's like, well, if you market, like if you take a $250,000 house and you post it on your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever you want to post it, LinkedIn, what kind of buyers are you going to find? You're going to find buyers that are shopping in a $250,000 price range, which if you charge 3% is 7,500. If you take $1 million listing and you post it on your Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever you want to post it, what kind of buyers are you going to find? $1 million buyers. And if you charge 3% on the $1 million transaction, how much money are you going to make? 30,000. So the difference between the post, right? So your income is in your own control. What type of post you're going to make, right? And then it's also in your control which side of the deal you are on. How much time are you willing to invest? And it's also in your control as you're growing further on. Like right now, people is like, well, can you be my realtor? I'm like, yes, but my hourly rate is $3,200.
Mm-hmm.
Would you still like me to be a realtor? Because on the listing side, the minimum you're going to pay me is 32,000 for 10 hours. That's the minimum that I would take a listing for, right? And then on the buy side, if I have to drive you around and show you houses and we are talking 30 hours, like you're close to 100 grand, buddy. Like, do you still want me to be a realtor? Right? Because I know
Yeah.
my hourly rate. So I do not work with buyers or sellers anymore. I personally have not sold a house in over 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I refer all of my leads out because I make more money. That I had a team up in Michigan, but I closed my team down and now I just refer all of my leads out because I make more money by not spending my time on it.
I was listening. I was listening to that part, and I had a question that was there on my mind. I had a real estate marketing company in. The young lady was here in my studio. And on a podcast a few episodes back, and because I know one of the things you do talk about is obviously branding your brand and so forth, and you need to create the avatar. And then I'm just coming up with this question. It's not a question I pre-created. I'm creating it now, but your brand and that she was able to look at a flyer an agent had sent me, and she's like, oh, that agent's trying to be in the luxury market or, at a certain price point. Do you agree when agents are trying to, like you said, go after the $1 million home, or, here in Northeast Florida, probably your core in St. Johns County, St. Augustine, is probably, 4 to 800,000. There's some $1 million stuff in Ponte Vedra. You will get the multis, but the bread and butter is in that 4 to 800,000. And if that's the market you're doing, you market to that. You want all your branding to be similar for that market piece. You may get $1 million, great, and you may have some first-time home buyers. Maybe you're looking for a $200,000 or $300,000 home if you can find it, but you want everything to align to that avatar that you're trying to focus on, which obviously then goes back to the math that you're talking about.
Well, absolutely. And also who's the easiest to work with, right? So if you feel like fish out of water as a multi-unit investor realtor, like I would, because I don't know anything about them, I don't want to market to them unless I want to learn that market.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But in the same time, I remembered when I was trying to break into the Pine Creek community, which was like the gated community of our area. And I remember my broker saying, oh, you can't do that because so-and-so owns that market. And I'm like, how did they own it? Did they buy it? Like, do they own the whole neighborhood, every home in the neighborhood? No, they don't.
Right.
So then I can break in there just the same way they broke in there. I don't care that they've been there for the last 20 years. If their brand is so solid, then they have nothing to worry about. right? Then I'm not going to make a dent in their business, but I'm not going to take in consideration somebody else who has 20 years of experience because it's probably adequated and it's probably time for a new face in there, right? So, in my opinion, you can go for whatever you want to go for, whatever you want to specialize in. Yeah, be the best at it, but go for it.
Change pace a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about, Team Gogo, the 1,500 plus agents that you've accumulated, within because I imagine when you came to EXP, you didn't have anyone with you. Am I
No,
correct?
well, I had Christy, my right hand,
Right.
and she
So
came with
you
me. At
came,
the
you were
time,
the
she was
first.
like my TC/assistant. Yeah. And oh, she wasn't even licensed at the time. So, no, actually, I had no one.
Right. And I saw you were the first woman to reach 100 agents in your group, or I guess in the team. I don't know what the proper language in EXP to how you want to call it. But
The company, I guess. Yeah.
right. So what are you doing yourself? Because I think a lot of agents, obviously, the level you're at is in a small, minuscule of a percent of the agents that are out there are able to maintain. But I know you've got a lot of videos on teams and created, and a lot of agents reach these max points where they basically have hit their lid and they don't know what to do next. And this is going to spin off into a couple of things, as I've heard you, chatting on different podcasts and stuff I've listened to prior to having you come on, whether it's the transaction coordinator, a virtual assistant, an assistant, another agent. I've been to a mastermind here locally where they were just kind of chatting about, the different things of a quote team. What is a team? Some people immediately visualize, I want to have 20 agents working under me, but I know you've even said you don't even want the headache of that. If I heard on one of your shows of managing 20 real estate agents. What do you recommend to an agent who has reached that lid to investigate, and what options, do you think is the better option, especially today with technology, and then leading into these virtual assistants that you leverage quite a bit?
Yeah. So I have 14 virtual assistants. My first virtual assistant was Saeed, or is Saeed. He's still with me. I'm very proud of that. So I would recommend number one is your hourly rate. Never, ever, ever, ever do anything else that's below your hourly rate. And pretty much everything is below your hourly rate, unless in real estate, unless you go get the next commission, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paper pushing like TC, that should be your first hire. All of your email automations, data management, your KV core systems, you name it, all of those things, your client appreciation, that is not your job. It needs to get done, but it is not your job. That should be the second thing hired out. So my number one hire would be a TC. My second hire would be a couple assistants like VAs. The reason why I say a couple is because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You're going to spend all this time training them and all that, and they're going to quit on you, and then you have to start all over again. I would say have two. Both of them are cross-trained. If one quits, you have the other. If one goes on vacation, you have the other. If one gets pregnant, you have the other. You sleep good at night, right? And then the other can hire the next VA and can train the next VA, so you're never without an assistant, and you never have to train them again, right? When you're training them, I follow this method. First, I show you, watch me, record it on Zoom, so you never have to show it again. They're going to go back and watch the recording, right? The second time you do it, I'll watch you. The third time you do it on your own, right? So these are kind of the training requirements, but record that time when you show it to them, so you will never have to show somebody how to do it again. You record it, you put it as your SOP, your VA training SOP, which is standard operating procedure. We just call it an SOP. You upload it to a Google Drive, you call it a day, you never have to train them again. So that's how I would do. Then I would start hiring out the step to the process, which again, on the buy side is you spend the most amount of time for the least amount of money. Listing commissions are usually higher than buy side commissions, on top of taking less time to work with listings, right? So that would be my next hire, is a couple buyers agents. So you're not spending 80 hours working with a client. And then I would get a listing specialist. I'm literally giving you the blueprint. This is exactly what I did. Mm-hmm. Then I would get a listing specialist to remove listings off your plate too, so you're not doing any transactions at all. And get your life back, get time back, go spend it with your husband, with your wife, with your kids, go on vacation. Like, don't go on vacation with a laptop. Like, I know I used to be so proud of it, of all the vacations that I could afford, and I was on the beach with a freaking laptop. That's not a vacation. Yeah. Who am I kidding? I'm pacing up and down on the hotel hallway because the hotel room is too loud with my kids, so I can do the phone calls. That's not a vacation. You know what I mean? So I remember the first time I went to an event and I didn't take my laptop or anything, and my team didn't call me as much as one time. And I was like, first I was offended because I was like, they don't need me anymore. Right? And then I was excited. I was like, holy shit. Like, we are doing something right. Like they can actually run this business without me. And that's freedom, right? It's freedom to be able to go do whatever you want because your income is not suffering. So that would be the process of what I would do of removing yourself from time invested. And then you really need to start making multiple revenues of income. So if commission is your only source of income, you're in trouble. Because if that ship sinks, then what? What if you get sick?
Right.
What if you break a leg? What if you get pregnant? What if you, like, God knows, what if you cannot do it? What if your parents get sick and you really should go and take care of them?
Right.
But you're chasing the next commission, right? So I wanted to make sure that I have multiple revenues of income. And also, I wanted to make sure that I have passive income, meaning I do not have to trade time for money, or as I like to call it, wake up money. So I wake up and I make money, right? And those can come through coaching, those can come through online courses, right? Those can come through real estate investments, those can come through, I mean, there's a agent attraction at exp, we get paid revenue share, right? It can come through stocks when you opt into the stock option program, and then every transaction you do, not just you get commission, you get stocks as well, so you finally have a retirement plan. But I want everyone to think about what are those other things that you could add to your, like, you might be really good at, let's say, open houses, right? And you might be able to put together an ebooklet that explains your open house strategy from start to finish. Here are the 10 steps that you must do to have the best open house ever. Then you sell that ebooklet for $29 on Sten Store. You're welcome, Tracy. Send me a Starbucks gift card. And then you open a Sten Store and then you sell your ebooklet. That's passive income, right? Because, or reoccurring, I should say, because you created it one time. It might have taken you 2-3 hours. Open your Sten Store, create your product, go into Canva, make it pretty, upload it, do a checkout page, call it a day. And then once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, however often you want to make money, you promote it. Hey guys, I have sold, over 100 homes through my open house strategy in my career. If you want to learn the 10 steps how to have the most successful open house ever, just click the link below. They click the link, they go over there, they pay $29, and you're sleeping and you wake up, you're like, holy shit, 10 people bought my ebook and I just made $290. You're like,
Right.
okay, I kind of like this.
What do you say to those who, I mean, imagine like, oh, I mean, there's a lot of real estate agents that have stuff out there like that, but I think there's probably a little lack of promotion. They might create it at some primitive level, but don't promote it. Don't keep it up to date. Because I imagine, obviously with the settlement stuff, things have changed on how buyers and, listing, agreements and all that stuff is going on. That's changed. But also the word that I write here, imposter syndrome. They're actually really good real estate agents and they're not sharing some of the success and some of the things that they do that make them successful and can create some passive income by simply creating a small course like you're talking about.
Well, when you're creating something that you actually know something about, then you shouldn't feel like imposter, because you're not an imposter. You're literally sharing your thoughts on a piece of paper.
Right.
Right? These are your ideas. You didn't copy it off of someone. It's not like you Googled and what does it take to have the best open house? No, I'm telling you, what are you good at? Because I guarantee you that you are 2 steps ahead of the person who is 2 steps behind you. So if there is something that you're really good at, teach the people who are still 2 steps behind. I'm not telling you to teach Grant Cardone how to invest into multifamily units, because the guy has it figured out.
Right.
He's not your target audience. He's not the one who's going to download your open house strategies. But the person who's going to download your open house strategies is the agent who just got out of real estate school and they have their first open house this week and they're like, I have no idea what to do and my broker is not answering my call and the top producing agents don't want to have me in the office because I'm a competition, and what do I do? And they're going to go and Google it and they're going to find your course and they're going to click buy. But you also should market it, right? Like, creating a product is not going to sell itself. Like, it is your job to go and tell the world that it exists. It's your job to answer the FAQ questions. It's your job to make it convenient for them to include the link. It is your job to believe in yourself enough to put it out there.
You use your virtual assistants a little bit. So I want to do, as we talked pre-show, WeCloneYou.com, because we talked about training some of these agents, or training some of these virtual assistants, I should say. Some of these virtual assistants obviously you can find that already have some experience in what you're looking to get them to do.
Well, depending, yes and no. If you like to pay for, let me walk you through the process. Okay. You can find your own virtual assistants. That's how I do. Every single virtual assistant of mine, I went on the internet and I found them. If you want my exact step-by-step instructions, you can go to myname.com. So it's gogobethke.com. And about halfway through the page, you're going to see a section that's called freebies. In that freebies section, I have my step-by-step instructions how to find, hire, and train your VAs. Okay. After you read all that, and you're like, oh, holy shit, this is a lot of work and I don't want to do it, then I would recommend We Clone You. We Clone You, I built it with Sammy. I no longer own it. Now Sammy owns it, just FYI. But the step-by-step instructions in there of how to find, hire, and train VAs are exactly how I find and hire and train my VAs. Okay? So inside there, they will find the VAs for you. They're going to be somewhat trained, and they're guaranteed for 90 days. If they don't work out, you can go back and get a new one. If you rather take that route, that of course you pay for services. So you can pay for those services. If you go to wecloneyou.com/gogo, you get $1,000 off. If you go directly to the website, you're going to pay full price. If you go to /gogo, you get $1,000 off. So technically, you get your first VA on me and what it comes out to be. So that's what I would recommend. First, go get the freebie, follow the step-by-step instructions, see if that is something that you feel like you can do on your own. If that is not what you want to do or feel like, or it doesn't worth your time, you rather pay for speed, then go to wecloneyou.com/gogo and have them do all that for you.
What would be like for an agent that has not brought on anyone, like I said, hit that lid, they're doing everything, marketing A to Z as far as what a real estate agent does, they need that first virtual assistant. What would you suggest they have them do, that first one?
I would probably, so think of all the things that you know you should be doing, but you're too busy to do. That would be my number one. It would be data management. It would be client appreciation. It would be social media posts. It would be responding to emails, responding to DMs, making sure that my closing is getting to the closing table. But for that, you want to have a TC, but you want to make sure that your VA is following up with the TC. So the TC is doing their job, right? So pretty much anything that is possibly a money-making activity for you. But here's the part where most people get hung up is like, but how do I give them stuff? How do I teach them? I'm already so busy. I don't have the time. Like if I have to show it to them and it's going to take me 10 minutes, might as well just do it myself, like yada, 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 right? We go through all of that. So in my Go Get 'em community, which is a membership-based community, one of the benefits is that you guys have access to my VAs. So every Tuesday and every Wednesday, there's a live call with my VAs. So then you or your VAs can come on the live call and be like, hey, my boss asked me to manage their calendar. How do I do that? Because they're too busy, they can't show it to me, right? And then my VA is literally going to show your VA how to manage your calendar, right? So anything that you could possibly need, you can also find inside the Go Get 'em community, with the idea of busy entrepreneurs learning how to have their systems and processes and everything set up. So you guys can go to gogetemcommunity.com, check it out, and then my VAs will train your VAs if you would like that.
I think it was on your LinkedIn. You mentioned the Go Get 'em community just recently in the last few days because you and Krista Mashore, who I've had on the show as well, won an award for, I guess, was one of the best funnels. I know I've seen you guys on different competitions for that stuff, but you met a gentleman, I guess, was specializing in SEO, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, so inside of the Go Get 'em community, once a month, I bring in an industry expert. So whatever I'm working on, I come and teach it, right? After I have it figured out. So after I went to the Tony Robbins event, or at the Tony Robbins event, right, which was the top 10 influencers in the nation, I met this guy named Quincy. And of course, as a social media person, I look Quincy up on Instagram, and Quincy has 6 followers. 6. And I'm like, Quincy, how the beep did you make it to the top 10 of influencers and you have 6 followers? And probably one is your mom, one is your wife, 2 are your kids, and one is your best friend, and there's one random person from the internet. I'm like, what the heck?
Right.
And so through SEO. So Quincy is one of the best SEO coaches, I guess, in the world. He worked with Tony Robbins and Toyota and all of these like big brands. So of course I hired him right away. We started working together, I would say probably 3 or 4 months ago now. All of my websites now are A-rated. So when you go on gtmetrics.com, you can rate your websites and see how it does in the Google scans of the world. And all of my websites are now A-rated. So now Quincy is coming on September 10th inside of the Go Get 'em community and teaching everything you need to know about SEO, how to be found and how to be hired, right? So most importantly, if someone's searching for a realtor in your area, how can you be on the first page of Google? And then how to get hired. What type of things do you have to have on your website to make sure that you so said convince these people to work with you? So Quincy is going to be our life coach in the month of September. It's going to be on September 10th. We have over 100 trainings by far in the Go community. So whenever you join, you get access to the past training and then access to all of the future trainings. And then of course, access to my team, so that my team can help you and your team to set up all of the systems and processes that we teach inside of the Go community. So yeah, I'm super excited about the SEO training.
I would just recommend everyone, if you go on Gogo's LinkedIn, it's right there. Just scroll down, you'll see where she talks about it. And then there's a link there to go to that. Was it GT Metrics? Is that?
Yeah, GT
Yep.
Metrics is to scan your website, and Metrics is spelled Metrix.
Right. I went on there. I actually put my podcast website was rated an A. I'm proud about that. But I need work on my YouTube, SEO, and so forth. Is kind of where my sore point is right now.
Yeah, and I can give you the company that I worked for. They're also teaching inside of the Go communities. I have to go grab the link, but after this call, just message me on Instagram and I'll get you the link to talk to them.
Excellent. You do something a lot of agents, I think, are afraid of. There's a handful of agents that will regularly, and I obviously, consistency is a word that if you're going to be social media, you want to do your business on social media, you got to be consistent. I think that we don't have to really expand on that too much, but you've taken your stuff, you have your own podcast, you're on other podcasts a lot. You've also got a radio show and a TV. Tell us a little bit about that and what your mindset is as far as your marketing campaign for all that Gogo does.
I mean, I just don't think, they say in English, the sky's the limit. I don't even think there is the sky. Like, there is no sky. Then behind the sky, there's an atmosphere, and behind that, God knows what, right? Mm-hmm. So I believe in infinite opportunities, and I believe in anything that you can imagine for yourself, you can have it. It's just, do you have the balls to imagine it, right? So Gogopreneur started, I had a TV company, a new network that reached out to me that they're starting a new network and it's free television, and would I like to be a show on it? And I was like, well, I don't have a show, but I probably should have a show. And so that's how Gogopreneur started. It was a TV show at first. So you can find it if you have Roku, you can find it on your home TV. So just go into your Roku app, download the Your Home TV app, and inside the Your Home TV app, you're going to find a bunch of TV shows, and one of them is the Gogopreneur TV show. And then I had a radio station reach out to me that they want to have my podcast. I'm like, well, I don't have a podcast. I just attend a bunch of other people's podcasts, right?
Right.
So instead of having to now come up with a podcast, like an audio version of a TV show, right? I just decided to change my TV show's layout format to be able to please both. So now it's more, I interview, do you know like the CEO of, what is it called? The Diary of a CEO? Like that style where I interview entrepreneurs, kind of like what we are doing right here, where I interview entrepreneurs of how they got to where they at, what are the lessons that they learned, and sharing those lessons with others so they don't have to learn the lessons on their own skin. They don't actually have to go through the pain of it. They can learn it through, through somebody else's life lesson. And so now the same show, which is the Gogopreneur TV show, which is a podcast / TV show, is turned into a radio and podcast. So it's on every podcast station, whatever you prefer listening to. It is also on, it's KG something I radio station, which is EXP's radio station. I can't think of it right now. Right. So I'm also on radio and also on TV, also on podcasts.
So you're really doing one show, but it's going across 3 medias.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had a training, it's been a while, I don't know if you know, no, it's not when I had Heather Monahan.
KGCI. I remember KGCI.
Okay.
I think what it's called.
I was part of with 2 other agents talking about social media. Obviously, I had the podcast world, and starting a podcast and doing it, regularly. I mean, that's the average podcast lasts 10 episodes. But you can be a guest on a lot of people's podcasts. You just got to oftentimes reach out. I try to find people, obviously, the top producers here, but I don't know every top producer in Northeast Florida, let alone Florida. So I'm always combing to find out who, try to get guests booked up a month in advance. But for an agent listening right now, if you're producing and you've got a story, there's podcasters out there. I'd like your story, but to reach out and would you agree, becoming a guest on a podcast, and then especially if it's videoed, because there's a lot of content that's created in a conversation like this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's how I started, right? I was like, okay, I don't have the audience. I want to build an audience. What is the fastest way to building an audience is taking other people's audience.
Right. Right. Or
They
sharing it.
already they already built it. So all I need to do is show up in front of their audience, right? So yeah, originally I emailed, my assistant sent out some emails to some podcasts. Most of them declined me. Some of them picked me up. And then, after you have a little exposure on the smaller ones, then the medium ones pick you up, and then the bigger ones pick you up. So you just have to take some action. What are they going to say? No, there is literally a trillion podcasts out there in the world that you could probably just go and email them. You can hire a VA just for that. And then I do podcasts every Tuesday at 11. So those are the days, and I used to only do podcasts every Tuesday at 11. But when I started my podcast, now my podcast is at that time, right? So now I have to do podcasts whenever I can fit it in, whenever I have an hour left. I only work
Right.
Monday to Wednesday, 11 to 5.
And if I'm not mistaken, because I think I went on, if you go on Apple or Spotify and just search Gogopreneur or Gogo Bethke, your show's going to come up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, this is open to anyone who wants to come in and join. Tell us a little bit what's in there for the listeners, because I just, again, combing through your stuff and getting a little pieces of your story here a little bit. Gogo Bootcamp seems to be a really big resource hub.
So when I started in real estate, right, my commissions was the only way I made money. And then when I switched to EXP, I was like, okay, I want to start making revenue share money. What do I need to do? And I was like, okay, I need to attract agents. How do I attract agents? And then I just hit what did I say? Put the pedal to the metal, and I just went crazy with agent attraction, which made me the number one woman agent attractor in the company, who brought 100 agents as a woman to the company, right in my front line. And then as everyone started seeing my results. They're like, what the heck is she doing? How do you do that? How do you do agent attraction? So I built Gogo's Bootcamp Agent Attraction course. And it's literally 200 some odd videos on the whole process of agent attraction from start to finish. Like every lesson I learned, from the mindset lessons to not even Jesus, meaning that if Jesus couldn't turn everyone a Christian, then who am I to think that every agent is going to say yes to me when we talk? No, not every agent is going to say yes. Not every agent is going to see the value of what we have to offer, yada, yada, right? So I literally teach every lesson that I have learned. And then I'm huge in systems and processes. So then what happens? Okay, after you learn the lesson, then you have to implement it. What does that look like on the day to day? So I literally give you my templated funnel, my agent attraction funnel that I used to attract these agents. And then we teach you how to turn it into your own funnel. So you can have your own version of my funnel, or you can use my team and my team will set it up for you, just depending how technologically savvy is the agent. And so literally is a video-based library. So if you go to gogosbootcamp.com, right, you get you buy your access, and then you get the 200 some odd videos, and you watch the videos, you pause, you implement what you learn, and then so on and so forth, and you start your agent attraction madness. It is not an EXP agent attraction course. Yes, I am an EXP agent, but that is not an EXP agent attraction course. So we have broker owners from Remax. We have privately owned brokerages that bought the course, right? Anyone that wants to build a local team or wants to build a downline or organization at any brokerage is literally my step-by-step instructions how to do that.
Now, if I saw correctly when I went on there, you have Krista Mashore and Carrie Sauvé, or both contribute to that in education.
So those are two different products. So what I just explained, that's Gogo's Bootcamp, that's my agent attraction course. Those are just my videos explaining how to do agent attraction.
Okay.
The one that you're talking about, that's the Go Get 'Em community.
Okay.
So the Go Get 'Em community is a membership product. That's what I explained you just a minute ago. Mm-hmm. It's a membership-based product, how to be the CEO of your company. So it's not necessarily how to go sell the next house. Like, yes, I have my listing presentation in there. I have my buyer presentation. We have marketing. You name it, we have it, right? But we also have technology and AI, and we have finances, and we have investments, and we have mindset, and we have anything that requires to be that CEO that can take your 6-digit business into a 7-digit business and do it consistently and have the freedom and have the life that goes along with what I call your ideal life, right? I don't want to burn myself out to make millions, but I want to make millions and I want to have a life. Mm-hmm. Right? So the Go Get 'Em community, that's the community where I teach everything entrepreneurial, but I'm not the only coach. So I invite the best in the industry to come and teach what they're really good at. It's over 100 different lessons already. And that's where we do that one big monthly live. And that's where Quincy is coming to teach the SEO on the 10th of September.
Right. Besides the EXP Con, do you have any other speaking engagements on the calendar in the near future?
I was was actually supposed to be speaking at Carrie's. So
Yeah.
she had that tech AI in
Mhm.
Canada, and I sadly had to cancel. And right after I canceled, she had to cancel the whole event. So that didn't work out.
Oh no.
Yeah,
But
I think she's going to redo it at a later time. I don't know if she has a time for that one yet. But now we're heading into the holiday season. So
Mhm.
my kids are 15 and 17. Now
Right.
I'm very selective of how often I want to travel and speak. The last couple of years, like a year before last, I traveled 24 times in 12 months. And I was like, oh gosh, no, I don't
Yeah.
ever want to do that again. I was
Yeah.
away from home way too much. So now I'm very limited of, if you think about it, going to an hour speaking engagement, it's usually, I don't like to travel the day when I speak. So
Right.
usually I arrive the day before, then I'm by myself or with my assistant in some random city in a hotel. Then it requires the whole day, the whole night. Then the next day, you get ready, you go speak, you have dinner, and then the following day you travel. So
Right.
1 hour speaking engagement is 3 days away from home,
Yep.
right? So for me, since I know my hourly rate, it has to be worth it, right? So I
Yeah.
do less and less of those now. I absolutely love and enjoy, and I love every opportunity. But in the same time, my children are now 15 and 17, so I have like 3 years with one, 2 years with another. So I really want to make sure that I'm spending as much time as I possibly can with them, equally spending time on speaking, because I absolutely love to teach. My knowledge is like my runner's high. I love being on stage. I love speaking. I can talk until the cows come home. So to answer your questions in a roundabout way, if you go to my gogobethke.com, you can always see the events that I'm going to be speaking on next. I
Right.
think that would be the easiest way to
Well,
see
we would love for you to
where
bring
I'm
your whole
speaking.
family over here to St. Augustine if you haven't been to the old city before. Have you ever been to
I
St.
have
Augustine?
not. I heard nothing but beautiful things.
Yes. So
The oldest sport in the US, right?
the oldest incorporated city in the United States. That's right. Spanish were here. English back and forth a few times. The history's there, but it's a treasure of Florida. There's many here, but love that maybe we can coordinate something in the near future. It'd be a great weekend, come over or long weekend or something and get a speaking engagement for you here locally type thing.
I would love that because I want to see St. Augustine. I've never been there, and the driving distance was so cool. I can take the fam. We can go turn it into a weekend, right?
Yeah.
So those are,
It's a 3 hour drive across from approximately where you're at.
yeah.
Easily.
I
Yeah.
used to take the kids all the
We're an hour and a
time.
half from Gainesville to, University of Florida. So yeah.
Yeah. But now
Um,
that they're in high school, it's a little harder to take them out of school. So if it's a weekday type
yeah.
of
Well,
activities,
they have all these teacher work days all the time, anyways. But I want to take this last 10 minutes here with you. If I could have you for 10 more minutes, you are the social media queen. You were labeled that. I've obviously digging through a lot of your stuff here. My belief in maybe you can clarify this because obviously you're coaching a lot more than the people I've spoken to on a lot of the different social media things that they can be doing. If you had this utopia, this perfect situation where you had this maybe a new agent, which I think there's a lot of agents probably been out there for several years, but they're still primitive to social media. How would you suggest they create their campaign, if you want to call it that? I personally have seen, because I go on and comb everyone's social media when I have them on, some of the best agents in Northeast Florida don't have no presence on YouTube. I mean, other than a few videos they might have done 6 months, 2 years ago, and that's it. They're not putting this stuff over. What would kind of be your, in a few minutes, just kind of a playbook that they should be starting with? And then obviously they should be expanding, maybe going on to your trainings and getting in depth, but some of the basic things that they need to be doing each and every day, week, month on social media.
oh gosh, I mean, social media is not any different than any other way how you want to do real estate, right? So if you're a cold caller, you're probably going to wake up and every morning from 9 to 11, you're hitting the cold calling list, right? And that's what you do. So if you decide to do social media and then every morning you wake up and from 9 to 11, you're going to be doing social media. I didn't get an instruction manual of like, go push this button if you want to be the social media queen of real estate. No, it's like, do you have one of these? Tracy, do you have one of these?
Yep.
Okay. If you were to leave the house without it, would you go back and get it?
100%.
Every time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have no excuse of like, well, I don't have what it takes. Every freaking body have what it takes. It's in your back pocket. All you need to do is take it out. You're gonna push the buttons. You're gonna go to Instagram or Facebook, whichever is your cup of tea, how you want to sip it, right? And then you're going to push the button and you're going to do a quick little video, or you're going to do a picture with a little description, and you're going to include a link, and then you're going to do a description, and then you're going to do a, a hashtag. And next time you're going to be like, well, that didn't work. And then you're like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this, right? And you just do it on a schedule, and you do it until you start seeing results. Just like if you were a cold caller and you sit down and it's 8 o'clock and you dial your first number and they don't answer, you're like, well, that's never going to work for me. I guess I'm never going to be a good cold caller. Like, same thing with social media. Like, you're not going to be really good at it on the first try. Like, guys, like, let's just do the math. Let's just, for shits and giggles, excuse my friend, do the math. Okay. So I post about 10 to 15 stories a day, and I post about once or twice into my feed. So let's say 15 times, right? Let's say it's 15 posts a day. 15 posts times.
Is Instagram your cornerstone?
Yeah, Instagram. And then from there, we plaster it everywhere else, plus 13 years. I have posted 71,175 times on one platform, which then we take the same exact thing that I post on Instagram, and then we plaster it on Facebook, and then we plaster it in Facebook groups, and then we plaster it on my business profile, and on my personal profile, and on LinkedIn, and then we turn it into a YouTube video, and then YouTube Shorts is going to become a reel, and So if we do the math, I probably did 500,000 posts in the 13 years to be where I'm at today. What if I stopped at the second or third one and be like, well, this is never going to work for me? No. Like, something's going to work, and then if it doesn't, you learn from it. That's a lesson. If it does work, whoa, great. If it doesn't, it's a lesson. What were you supposed to learn from it? Don't do it ever again. Right. But that means you still have to do it. And then the platforms change, and then the algorithm changes, and then you can use hashtags, and suddenly it's not good to use hashtags. And just like anything else, if you want to be really good at it, just push the buttons. Go on there every day, put it into your calendar, fake it till you make it. Like, say every Tuesday is your open house, I don't know, new construction Tuesday. Wednesday is going to be lakefront property Wednesday. Thursday is going to be apartments, lofts, townhomes, whatever. Like, just schedule a showing, walk through the property, do a video, tell the world about what this property has to offer, how the backyard is the best, or just wait until you see the kitchen, right? Post that, go to your KV core, take the link to that property, post it with the video so they can actually see the full listing. You can capture their information. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, their information is in your KV core. You're just going to call and be like, hey, Jessica, I saw that you looked at 123 Main Street, the property I showed yesterday. Do you have any specific questions? Can I help you in any way?
How you, and I know you mentioned this, but I want to strengthen this because I saw it in your videos, and it's something I've been preaching, to the agents, everyone that I've had on. The top ones obviously agree, and I know you will agree. The importance of you being in part of that, the whole video, to create that relationship, as I felt like I knew you a lot after watching all your videos today, going through it the last couple of days. But being in that video that you're talking about, don't just walk through the house, say, here's the house. You need to show your face somewhere in there.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Any personal brand that you know, the Tony Robbins, the Oprahs, the Grant Cardones of the world, the Gary V's, I could continue on. Mm-hmm. If you go to their profile, what do you see?
Their face.
Every single picture, every single video, there's Gary Vee in it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so same with, let's say, Grant Cardone, because he's in real estate. So if you want to invest with Grant Cardone, you're going to go on his profile, and do you actually going to see the investment opportunities, or are you going to see Grant pitching you the investment opportunities?
It's Grant.
It's Grant. Mm-hmm. It's the brand. Grant is the brand. And so are you. There's 1.6 million realtors in this country. Like, how many realtors are in Florida? Do you know?
I know there's 242,000 members of Florida realtors.
There you go. So 250,000 realtors just in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. So if I was a seller right now, I could literally choose every single one of them. The question is, who should I choose? You need to be an option. They're going to Google you. They're going to social media you. They're going to go on YouTube and see if you exist. Did you know YouTube is the #1 search engine? It's not Google, it's YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you don't exist, you don't exist, which means you're going to have to pay for exposure, or you're going to have to pay for leads. I don't pay for either. I literally have like a 99% profit strategy, where most realtors, and you were talking about why I don't want to have a team and things like that, most of these teams and most of the brokerages, if they break a 15% profit, they are bawling. Mm. They They're ballers if they break a 15% profit, which means they have to make $1 million GCI to take home 150,000. I've made more money than some of these team leads in like my second year of real estate because the way my business is built. I have no cost of doing business. I own a printer.
Mm-hmm. And a laptop.
Yeah, not even. This computer right here, then I bought on points through Chase. Just like FYI. But I just like to run a lead machine and I like free leads. I like to learn how to fish because also when you learn how to fish, you don't worry where your food comes from. The agents that worry about where the next commission is going to come from are the ones who have no control over their business. They rely on a product or a service or a third-party company to feed them.
Right.
Because they don't exist.
Gogo, I appreciate you coming on here. I've taken up your hour. Is there anything last minute things? Obviously, we're going to have all your links, websites, and so forth in the show note for everyone to go and see what Gogo's doing. Go to the Go Get 'em community and obviously Gogo Bootcamp, whatever. We talked about both of those today.
Is your best bet. So if you go to myname.com, you'll find everything that I do.
Everything's linked in there. Okay. Good.
Everything's linked in there. Yep. But
just like it sounds, Gogo Bethke, and it's obviously in the show notes for the listeners. Anything you'd like to add, Gogo?
Yeah, I want to give your listeners a discount. I usually don't do that. You're not going to find this anywhere. But if you use the code 10 off,
10 off,
you're going to get 10% off of the Go Get 'em community. So if you decide that you want my coaching and you want to know what I know and turn yourself into a rock star multi-millionaire, entrepreneur, CEO, investor, coach, realtor, team lead, all of those lessons are in the Go Get 'em community. If you use 10 off, you get it for 10% off.
True marketing go-go-preneur there. I love it. Appreciate that. 10 off and on any of her sites there. That is awesome. I appreciate that. Hopefully one day, like I said, if you are coming over to have a plan to come over to St. Augustine, or maybe I can make a plan for you when the schools line up, and we'll get you come over and put you in front of some people as well here on the ground in the St. Augustine, Greater Jacksonville area. So,
well, thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have a super day.
I tagged you on Instagram.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This may be it for today's episode of Real Estate Excellence, but we both know your pursuit of excellence doesn't stop here. To connect with the best of the best and really take your skills to the next level, join our community by visiting TracyHayesPodcast.com, where you'll meet more like-minded individuals looking to expand their inner circle and their personal experience. That's available at TracyHayesPodcast.com.